Hello everyone. Today we are going to work on vocabulary SLO. This SLO is a very comprehensive SLO. In this SLO there are many subtopics. Today's topic that we are going to focus on is phrasal verbs. So before I start explaining phrasal verbs myself, would anybody tell me if they have ever heard what is a phrasal verb? So Mustajab, would you please tell me what is a phrasal verb? Have you ever heard this? Yes, Mustajab. Have you ever heard phrasal verb, the word phrasal verb, or do you know anything about these verbs, phrasal verbs?
Sir,
Mustajab?
I think the phrasal verb is the combination of two or three verbs.
Okay, good. So phrasal verb is a combination or combination, okay? And you are saying it's a combination of two or three verbs. No, not verbs. It's a
Words, sir,
combination.
words.
Words, okay, words. It's a combination of two or three words. Okay, very good. Anybody else who would like to tell me a little about phrasal verbs, if you know anything? No? Acha, okay, now today let's discuss these in detail through the help of PowerPoint. Okay, so let me start the PowerPoint. So now see here the PowerPoint shows the information about phrasal verbs. So as Mustajab told us that phrasal verbs are combination of words. Okay, so they are phrasal verbs equals to verb plus particle. Now particle is another word. Consider it's another word. Okay, so there would be a verb plus another part, another word, another particle. Okay, so for example here a sentence, he woke up at 6:30 a.m. Now here up is a particle. The particle looks like a preposition but it doesn't function as a preposition. Okay, and sometimes it is an adverb also. Okay, so see now this is our main word, he woke up. Okay, up is a particle, it goes with this main word. Okay, and then these two are called phrasal verbs. Okay, so phrasal verb is what? A combination of verb plus particle. Okay, for example the same sentence but in a different way. Strangers woke him up. Strangers woke him up. Now the word wake up has been used in two different ways. Now here you might see that the word woke is used along with its particle, and here you see that the word woke, then there is a pronoun, and then there is the particle. We are going to discuss all of these things, don't worry. So these things are coming up. Now for now, understand that phrasal verb is a combination of verb and its particle. Okay, and then when these two words get together they would make another meaning. Okay, so maybe individually if you look at words, their meaning would be different. So for example common no, particles are off, on, so they are different words that beginners learn, and they learn individually. But when they come with verbs and they become phrasal verbs, their meaning might be different. Okay, so we are going to discuss everything. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Now, what are particles? Particles are part of the verb phrase and they often change the meaning of the verb. Okay, as I told you. Now, for example, here is the sentence, he looked up at the skyscraper. It's a preposition. Okay, now, for example, there is another sentence, she looks up a word in her dictionary. Now, see, the particle is changing the meaning of both of the sentences. So he looked up at the skyscraper, meaning he was looking at there, meaning he was seeing that skyscraper. Okay, and another word, another sentence, she looked up a word in her dictionary. Here the meaning would be what do you think here looked up means here? Fiza will tell me. Fiza, what do you think it means? She looked up a word in her dictionary. Yes, Fiza, can you tell us the meaning? Yes, it means that she searched. Okay, she looked up in the dictionary, meaning she tried to search it in the dictionary. Okay, so now you understand that what are particles. Okay, now another thing that we need to learn is important, very important. Okay, using phrasal verbs, how we can use these phrasal verbs. Many phrasal verbs in and one word verbs have similar meaning. Okay, so for example, wake up meaning awaken, go on meaning continue. Okay, so continue and go on have the same meaning. Now, take off meaning to remove. Okay, phrasal verbs are less formal and more common in everyday speech. Now, let me here point out that the note at the in that box is written that phrasal verbs are less formal and more common in everyday speech. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't use these in exam or in formal situations. Nowadays, these are very important and they are also used in formal situations as well. Okay, sometimes there is no any other way to just accept the using the phrasal verb. So we are going to come to this point a little later. Okay, now this thing is very important to understand that how we should use them, meaning sometimes the particle comes along with the main verb, and sometimes it comes after the object. So what is transitive phrasal verb? We need to understand. Transitive phrasal verbs have objects. Most transitive phrasal verbs are separable. Okay, now see, it says that most, not all. Most transitive phrasal verbs are separable, and transitive phrasal verbs have objects. Now let's see some sentences. He called up his boss to tell him he had overslept. Now see, called up his boss. His boss is a noun. Remember this thing, okay? And when you have noun, you can separate the phrasal verb from the with the separate the particle from the verb. But if you have a pronoun, you can't keep together. You have to separate. For example, another way here, he called his boss up to tell him he had overslept. Now both of the sentences are correct, but if they were say a pronoun, things would be different. We are coming to that point in a minute. Okay, so now see, transitive phrasal verbs. Now the object can come after the phrasal verb or between the verb and the particle. Okay, now see, again we have here the nouns. At the last minute, the bride called off the wedding. Okay, so another sentence here. At the last minute, the bride called the wedding off. Now see, in the last sentence, you see there is an object between the verb and its particle, and in the first sentence, the both of the words are together, meaning particle and the verb, they are together. Okay, this is also correct. Okay, so you can use if you have nouns. Okay, so the object can come after the phrasal verb or between the verb and the particle. Okay, so remember this point. Now this is something I was talking about. Let's discuss it again. So when the object is a pronoun, it must come between the verb and the particle. Now see, it would be wrong if you said a friend called up her at work. It's wrong. Okay, so you need to put the object uh, between the verb and the particle. Okay, a friend called her up at work. A friend called her up at work. Now see, in our previous sentences there was not this rule. Okay, so what was the rule here? You saw that the noun could go in between. Here you see that in between verb and particle, and it can also come after the verb and particle. Okay, so both sentences are correct here. But if you are in say if you are using a pronoun, you need to be careful. Okay, so remember, when the object is a pronoun, it must come between the verb and the particle. You cannot say a friend called up her at work. You should always say a friend called her up at work. Okay, is that clear? Any question for so far? Acha, okay, now we are practicing these things. Acha, now I will take you to another screen now, okay, so that you can understand a little more. Acha, now see, you need to also understand about intransitive phrasal verbs. Okay, what are intransitive phrasal verbs? They do not have objects. Okay, so see, for example, he grew up in Egypt. It doesn't have any object. Okay, so those words which have here objects, now see, here transitive, there you can separate verb and or particle. But if you have, say, intransitive, you don't have any object, so you would use both of the verb and particle together. He grew up in Egypt. Okay, so see another sentence, she will hang up before she gets into her car. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. Now see, intransitive phrasal verbs do not have objects. Some more sentences. First, I worked out for an hour. Okay, worked out, you see, these are together used. Okay, because they don't have any object. If they had object, then they could have been separated. But since it's intransitive, so this cannot be separated. But if it was transitive, then mostly it can be separated. So see the sentences. First, I worked out for an hour, then I dressed up and dropped in at the party. No one found out that I didn't have any invitation. Okay, so see, this is example of intransitive phrasal verb. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to get to some more information about these. Let me move you to the another screen. So now see, let's read this information. It is again the same thing, but let's summarize it, and then we would move to some words that we would learn today, phrasal verbs. So who is going to read this? Yes, Ashan, Ansar, would you please read this information that you see on the screen? Ansar, go ahead, please read it. Yes, Ansar, unmute yourself, please. Ansar, read it, please. Go ahead. Okay, Mustajab, you go ahead, please read it.
So the student phrasal verbs are combinations of ordinary verbs like put, take, come, and go, and the particle like in, out, on, and off. They are a very important part of everyday English. Every student of English needs a basic understanding of the most common phrasal verbs and also of common nouns and adjectives made from phrasal verbs. Most phrasal verbs are not informal slang or improper for educated speech or formal writing. Exactly the opposite is true. Most
Read.
Most phrasal verbs are acceptable at all levels of spoken or written English. In fact, for many of the phrasal verbs in this textbook,
Okay, okay,
there
okay.
is no alternative to the phrasal verbs. There is no other way to say it.
Okay, so this is what I told you earlier. So it's good that we should, along the way, some of these things. Okay, so now let's read some of the verbs. Okay, so phrasal verbs. We will discuss now some of the phrasal verbs. And as I told you that some are separable and some are non-separable. So let's get that thing again because it's very important. So Fiza, please read the information here on the screen that you see. Please start here. Phrasal verbs are either separable or non-separable. Please read this line, this information. Read. Yes, please. Fizan, mute yourself. Please go ahead.
Phrasal verbs are either separable or non-separable. Unfortunately, there is no rule that will help you to look at phrasal verb and always know whether it is separable or non-separable.
Okay, go on. Read it. Read a little more. Yes.
Separable phrasal verbs. Separable phrasal verbs can be separated by their object. When the object is a noun, it is usually entirely optional whether the object is placed between the verb and the particle or placed after the particle. Both sentences below are correct.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
took my
Yes.
shoes off. I took off my shoes.
Go ahead. Read. Yes. Go on.
However, when a pronoun is used instead of a noun, the pronoun must be placed between the verb and particle. I took them off. I took the. I took off them.
Okay.
So
Look
here
here.
the
Mhm.
I took off them is wrong, and I took them off is correct.
Okay, so this is what I told you earlier. So I think now it's very clear to us that when we have a noun, we can put the noun between the verb and the particle, or we can put the noun after the particle, okay, after the verb and particle. But if we have pronoun, it's very important to remember that the pronoun would always go in between, okay. Acha, now see everyone. Now we are moving to the another important point. Okay, non-separable phrasal verbs. Okay, now see this is also very important information. Okay, let's read from say non-separable phrasal verbs. Non-separable phrasal verbs cannot be separated by their object. We have discussed it. Okay, so he ran into a tree. Okay, so but if we say he ran a tree into, now there would be some phrasal verbs that you cannot separate. Okay, so there would be some verbs, phrasal verbs that you cannot separate. Okay, so remember now this might be very confusing for learners that how to know that which phrasal verb is separable and which one is not separable. One of the way is to understand the objects and transitive and intransitive verbs. But to for me the very important point to understand this thing, the option to understand these things is a dictionary. Okay, so always use a dictionary. Dictionary will clarify this issue. If there is a particular verb, phrasal verb, and you don't know whether it's a separable, it's non-separable, if a transitive and intransitive concept is also not clear to you, then there is a other way. That is the best way to use a dictionary. Okay, so now we would move and learn some of the phrasal verbs. Okay, so I would ask one by one you to read one phrasal verb, and its meaning is also on the screen. You would explain, you would read the sentences as well. Okay, so now Noshin, please you go ahead and read the first verb come from here. Okay, please read this. PV meaning phrasal
First
verb.
one is
Yes.
come from phrasal verb. When you come from a place, you were born there or lived there previously. When you come from a family or social situation, your past experience helps to explain your present attitudes and behavior. Mike comes from Alaska, so he's used to cold weather. Jan had a difficult childhood. She came from a broken home.
Acha, okay. Noshin, your voice is not that clear. So I would like to give this to someone else. Okay, so Fiza Batul, would you please go ahead and read this again? Yes, Fiza Batul, would you please go ahead and read this to us?
Come from phrasal verb. When you come from a place, you were born there or lived there previously. When you come from a family or a social situation, you Your past experience help you to explain your present attitudes and behaviors. Mike comes from Alexa, so he is used to cold weather.
Mhm.
Jane had a difficult situation. She came from a broken home.
Okay, very good. Now we understand that what come from means. Okay, so see here you would see that it's a non-separable verb. Okay, meaning it in both of the sentences it is not separated. Okay, so another meaning of phrasal verb is let's read. There is another sentence. Who would read it? Okay, Mustajab, you go ahead.
Come from pronouns or verbs. When something comes from a source, that is where it originated. The word "idmar" comes from an Arabic word. The mechanic heard a strange sound coming from the engine.
Okay. Now this is our first verb come from we learned. Now we are going to go to the next word figure out. Okay. So Fiza Memon, please go ahead and read this.
Figure out phrasal verb. The object can be noun or noun class. When you figure out something such as the answer to a question, the solution to a problem, or why a person is a certain way or acts a certain way, you think about and succeed in understanding it.
Okay, read the sentences.
Joy is so hostile all the time. I can't figure him out. I looked everywhere for my keys, but I couldn't figure out where I put them.
Okay, so let me correct your pronunciation. Joe's so hostile. Okay, hostile meaning who's feeling really jealous or who is ready to fight. Okay, so Joe's so hostile all the time. I can't figure him out. Asha, meaning I can't figure him out, meaning I can't understand him. Why he's so hostile. Okay, so do you understand this word? Now I want the Noshin to use this in her sentence. Please, the Noshin, go ahead and use this figure out in any of your sentences. Can you make a sentence? If you need to reread the meaning, let me reread it for you. When you figure out something, such as the answer to a question, the solution to a problem, or why a person is a certain way or acts a certain way, you think about and succeed in understanding it. Okay, meaning you understand them. Okay, so raise your hand who would like to tell me a sentence. Yes. Okay, Mustajab, go ahead.
Yesterday, I figured out the correct answer from my mate's book.
Okay, yesterday I figure out
Yesterday, I figured out the correct answer of a question from my mate's book.
okay, very good. Anybody else who would like to tell us any sentence, or we are going moving to the another verb, give back. Okay, so who would read? Mustajab, go ahead and read this. Yes.
From where, sir?
You would read from here. Okay, and these
Give
are
back.
its forms. Okay, give back or gives back with he she it, you would in noun you would use gives back, and giving back is present participle, gave back is past tense, and given back is a past participle. Okay, so we know this thing already, so we are focusing on the meaning and sentences. Okay, read.
Okay, sir. Give back. When you return something to someone, you give it back. Can I use your pen? I will give it back after the test.
Mhm.
Jimmy, give that do I beg to your sister right now? Look for the next verse.
Okay. Asha, now see here we have pronoun. The rule is that when you have a pronoun, you have to keep it in between the verb and its particle. Okay. So sentences are also helping us to understand this thing and recall the rule. Okay. And here we say, Timmy, give the toy back. Now, toy is a noun, and give back toy to your sister. We can also say this thing, or we can also say give that toy back to your sister. And also remember that when you have two objects, then things might change a little. Okay, anyway, the rule is that we should learn the language naturally. If this verb is separable, we should know both of the ways. The sentences will help us, our natural instincts will help us to use the verb correctly. Okay, last one we would read, and then I think there would be maybe another class for okay, time for another class, but let's read this one, look for. Okay, so Fiza Memon will read this.
Look for phrasal verb. When you look for things or people, you try to find them. Looked for you at the party, but I didn't see you. Excuse me, can you help me? I'm looking for 303 main seat.
Okay, now let's read this one also, put on. Okay, so can Fiza Batul go ahead and read this? Yes. Would you like to read, Ansa? Okay, Fiza Batul is reading. Read, please go on.
Which one, sir?
This one, put on. Okay, this one from here actually. Okay, put on. Read from here.
On phrasal verb, when you place something on or apply something to your body,
Mm-hmm.
you put it on. I
Okay.
put it on my new dress before going to the party. Eric forget to put Sultan lotion on.
Mm-hmm.
Now he is as red as luster.
Okay. Now another meaning of put on is here. So please go on and read this.
Put on phrasal verb when you place something or apply something in other surface, you put it on.
Mm-hmm.
I put the book on the table. Jerry put too much fertilizers on his lawn and now he has cut it out twice in a week.
Okay, very good. There is another third meaning of this one. Let's read this one also. Go on. Yes.
Put on phrasal verb when you attach or affix something to another thing, put it on.
Mm-hmm.
Civilians put a new roof on their house last year. I told the tailor to put red buttons on the dress he's making for me. Number 4.
Okay.
Put on phrasal verb when you put on weight, you gain weight.
Okay. Now this is very good one. Okay. So fourth meaning, I have used it so many times and I have heard it. And see here, this is a different meaning. Okay. So put on meaning, when you put on weight, you gain weight. Okay. Read the sentences. Go ahead. Yes. Read the sentence.
Right?
Mhm.
He's put on so much weight that I didn't recognize him. I need to go on a diet. I have been putting on a lot of weight lately.
Okay. Asha, now Mustajab, go ahead and read the fifth one. Fifth one and sixth one very quickly because we have
Okay,
limited
sir.
time.
Put on appraisal verb when you organize or perform something for other people, entertainment such as a play or a concert, you put it on. The club
Mm-hmm.
put on a show to raise money for the party. The Oprah hasn't put on in more than 200 years. 6. 1. Put on phrasal verb informal. When you put people on, you kid or tease them. You won the lottery. You you are putting me on. Don't put me on. Tell me the truth.
Okay, time is up. We will meet in another class soon. I've taken your attendance and thank you for coming and attending the class. Goodbye.